Yeah. So good evening, everyone. Today we're going to continue our lesson on important aspects of box model, box dimensions, borders, padding, and margin. And box model, however, has an awkward limitation regarding box dimensions, and it's basically illustrated by like with following example. Here we have like heading 1 with border, okay, 1 pixel thick. Here we have a height of the box, let's say 200 pixels. We have width of 300 pixels, and here we have a padding of 10 pixels, which is set on all 4 sides of the box content. Unfortunately, under the current box model, the dimensions of box are affected by border thickness and padding, and the height of in order to increase, like the padding of 10 pixels increases the height and width, okay, by 10 pixels of each one. And why it increases? Because it increases from both sides. So basically it will become from one side you will add 10 pixels, and from another side 10 pixel, which will constitute to 220 pixels, okay. Next, the 1 pixel thick border increases height to 222 pixels and the width to 322 pixels. And to make sure you understand overall dimension of box, you understand that like it's difficult to accurately size a box, and over a time you can also make all of this web page content difficult to position and manage. And here we'll learn how to use a different technique to avoid all these problems altogether, okay. So basically I will just zoom out our lecture and I will just quickly introduce you like our HTML file. And here we can see like a different style CSS, which is written in our like code. Okay. Akmaral and Sandogash. Okay. Let's test our memory, okay. So how we can see it? Basically here we have all our like code. Here we have like different memory game, and whenever we see like different boxes here which we can click like, but it's not like clickable. And okay, we'll go further. And many properties in CSS have a default value and don't have explicitly set in the style sheet. For example, the default font weight of text is normal, but this property value pair is not typically specified in a style sheet. And the same can be said about the box model that browsers assume. In CSS, the box sizing property controls the type of box model which browser should use when interpreting a web page. The default value of this property is content box, and this is the same box model that is affected by border thickness and padding. And study the diagram to the right. It illustrates the default box model used by the browser. And when you're done, continue to the next exercise, okay? So here we have different like box model, and you have, for example, left padding, right border, left border. And you know that actual rendered width of element box is like width plus padding plus border, which is equal to actual rendered of all this element box. And when you add all the stuff, you will get this one number. Okay, so what about box model or border box? Okay, fortunately, we can reset the entire box model and specify a new one. So here we have like curly braces with boxing sizes, which is equal to border box. And also the code in this element above like reset the box model to border box for all HTML elements. And this is new box model avoids the dimensional issues that exist in the former box model you learned about, and the height of and width of the box will remain fixed. The border thickness and padding will be included inside of the box, which means the overall dimensions of the box don't change, okay? And in this example above, the height of the box will remain at 200 pixels and the width will remain at 300 pixels. And the border thickness and padding will remain entirely inside of the box, okay? So we can study the diagram to the right and it illustrates the new box model box. Okay, so here we have width property, like of an actual property, which is equal to 200 pixels. And we can see that it's automatically calculated and sized based on remaining width and after border and padding has been subtracted, okay? If you have like 200 pixels and you put like 20 pixels, it will automatically make your content width, okay? So you don't need to specify it like 180 or something else, okay? And now you know a little bit more about new box model, and let's actually implement in the browser. So basically we have boxing sizing of border box, and it's simple. And in the example above, the universal selector targets all elements on the web page and sets to the border box, okay? And in style CSS file, we should like change the box model for all elements to the new box, okay? So we just go in. Let me just. Okay, so I just added this piece of code and I got it that it's basically automatically, okay? So it's basically automatically done. Okay, and border box is already implemented, okay? So you will not have probably seen difference, but this will make sure that all dimensions of elements remain the same regardless of the border width and padding, okay? And let us quickly review all this changing boxing model. Okay, right now I will just copy paste all this. Okay, I will ask Anwar to share this file with you. Okay, so okay, so let's go. Okay. So let's start our next project, which is like basically you learn much more about how to implement it. Okay, guys. So here we have like box model, Davy Burgers, and you should follow step-by-step instruction to fix a fictional restaurant website. And all of this HTML and most of CSS is intact, but the box model properties have yet to be set. And this is one of these like typical projects that you can submit at the end of your course. And I will be happy to share you with this HTML and CSS files. And if you have like some projects, basically you can address to me or like some project walkthrough video, which we'll record right now, okay? So here we have 8 tasks to complete and I will start the first one, okay? So we should go like through Davy Burgers menu item, roughly top of the button. Let's begin with styling the navigation element. and set width of image to 180 pixels and convert this image margin property using margin property. Okay, so how we can do this? We'll use margin property, and yeah, so I will see the navigation element here. Okay, here we have a lot of like questions which we should like fill it out. Okay, so let me start from this one.
Hey there, and welcome to Codecademy. My name is Galina, and I'm a developer from New York. Today, we'll be covering the box model Dave's Burgers freeform project, part of the Learn CSS course. But the box model properties have yet to be set. You'll use knowledge of height, width, padding, border, and margin to complete this project. The website's existing index.html and style.css files are displayed in the text editor to the right. Here they are. As you work, use both to see which elements you're selecting and styling. Most of the elements that you'll need to add styles for already have rule sets in style.css to which you can add additional declarations. All right, now let's get started with number 1. You'll go through Davy's Burgers menu item roughly from top to bottom. Let's begin with styling the nav element containing the logo and navigation elements. So we are going to be styling this portion of our page. Let's set the width of the image to 180 pixels. So let's navigate to our CSS file, locate our nav CSS selector, and here it is. And specifically for image, we're going to set the width to 180 pixels. Great, and now we want.
Okay, so how can we go through all this stuff? Okay, so
want to center the image horizontally using the margin property. So in the following line, let's add the margin property. We'll first set the top and bottom to 0, and then to center horizontally, we're going to use auto. Now let's save and take a look for the changes in the browser. Perfect. Our image is now centered horizontally and has a width of 180 pixels. Let's check off step 1 and let's move on to step 2. Set margin of span elements inside the nav to 10 pixels on the top and bottom and 0 pixels on the left and right. Let's locate the CSS selector for that. And here it is. And let's set the top and bottom of our margin to 10 pixels and 0 for the left and the right. So let's navigate back to our HTML file and locate our span elements. And they are the menu, nutrition, order, and locations elements that we see on the page. Now let's hit save and observe the changes in the browser. Perfect, so we've added spacing to the top and bottom of each element. Now let's check off step 2 and move on to step 3. Now set some rules for the element with the class content. Here we have our class content. This element is a container for all the elements not included in the nav. So we see it includes the header right here, as well as the body that we see over here, and followed by the button and nutrition information. Let's navigate back to our CSS file, locate that selector, and it is on line 40. And we want to set the height to 500 pixels. So let's use the height property as well as 500 pixels. Now let's save. And now create 10 pixel vertical margins and automatic horizontal margins. So let's use margin property, set 10 pixels for vertical and auto for automatic horizontal margins. Let's hit save. And now let's set the body elements inside content to have no vertical margin and automatic horizontal margin so that it is centered. So let's locate our body elements inside content. Here they are. And set the margin to 0 pixels and auto. Okay, now let's hit save and take a look at all of the changes that were made. So now we can see that we've added 10 pixel vertical margins and we've centered our content and set the height to 500 pixels. Let's check off step 3 and move on to step 4. With the 500 pixel height for content, some elements will overflow out of its box if the browser window is made too small. Make content scrollable with the overflow property. So content, we want to have scrollable. We're going to use overflow scroll. Let's hit save. And now we want to resize the browser window so it is very skinny, and notice that this section is now scrollable. So let's resize our window. And we should see a little scroll pop up to the right. And here it is. Great. Let's move this back. Check off step 4 and move on to step 5. Now it's time to tackle the header and its H1 text barbecue bacon burger. Set the height of the header class to 320 pixels. Let's locate our header class element and set its height to 320 pixels. Let's save and observe the changes to the right. So we've increased our header size significantly to 320 pixels, and we can now see the picture clearly, though our H1 stayed the same. Now we want to create a 20 pixel padding for the H1 element inside the header, and that would be on line 56. So let's add a padding property, followed by 20 pixels. Let's save. And we can see the space that we've added between the content and the border. And the text no longer feels crammed. Now we want to set vertical margins to 0 pixels and the horizontal margins to be determined automatically for the same H1 element. So working in the same selector, we're going to set the vertical margin to 0 So that's 0 pixel, and the horizontal margins to be determined automatically. So we're going to use auto. Let's save and take a look at our centered H1 in the browser. Perfect. Let's check off step 5 and move on to step 6. Now add some box model formatting to the order now button element. So the button element, let's locate that in our HTML. And here it is on line 41. Now let's take a look at where that is in our browser. And here it is, right between the paragraph and the nutrition information. So we want to set the width to 200 pixels. And as you make each change, make sure to scroll down if necessary to view the effect on the button. So let's navigate back to our CSS file, locate our button element, and here it is on line 85, and we're going to set the width to 200 px. Let's save. We notice that the order now button has shifted to the left a bit, and we want to set the padding to 20 pixels. So working in the same CSS selector for our button element, we're going to set the padding to 20 pixels. Save. We can hover over our button and notice the additional spacing that's been added around the text. Now we want to set the vertical margins to 40 pixels and the horizontal margins to automatic. So let's add the margin property and set vertical margins to 40 px and horizontal margins to automatic, so auto. Let's save, and we should now see our button centered. Perfect, here it is. And we can also see some additional spacing that we've added outside of the element. And lastly, we want to give the button a 1 pixel solid blue border. So we're going to use the border property, and it will be 1 pixels solid and the color blue. Let's save, observe the changes to the right, and here we can see our border. Great, now let's check off step 6 and move on to step 7. Finally, style the nutrition facts section at the bottom. And the element selected with ul.nutrition, let's locate that. Here it is on line 104. We want to set the padding of the UL nutrition element to 20 pixels. So let's scroll down in our page and locate where that is. So we're going to be styling this section of our website. So let's set the padding to 20 pixels. Then set the width of LI elements within the ul.nutrition to 200 pixels. So we're going to be setting the width of each individual list item to 200 pixels. So that would be on line 112, width 200 pixels. Let's save and take a look. Now each element's width has increased to 200 pixels. So let's increase the size of our browser window to observe the change. All right, and now the next bullet point asks us to set a 10 pixel vertical padding and 20 pixel horizontal padding to the same elements. So let's set the padding property to have 10 pixel vertical padding and 20 pixel horizontal padding. Save. And now let's add a 3 pixel bottom margin to the same elements. So this should create some spacing between the elements. Margin 3 px. Oh, and because this is bottom, we do have to specify that. So margin dash bottom 3 pixels. Let's scroll down. And we can now clearly see the individual elements here. Perfect. Now let's check off step 7 and move on to step 8. Good job. The menu item is looking great. And the layout and space
Вот так вот примерно будет выглядеть project. So basically, this is like how you work your project and how you can go and cover it. Okay. So yeah, okay, we can start our quiz. Okay, so let's start it. What is the name of space between content container and the border? Okay, so here you have a cheat sheet, guys. Okay, so I will give you this cheat sheet. I will stop recording.